Alright, hello everyone. My name is Disc, and in this video we're going to be looking at a Mechagon Workshop 17 from the point of view of discipline. And the affixes for this week are Bolstering, which I don't really notice that much, at least not in this key. And then we also have Explosives, which you will want to take the bulk of that responsibility on yourself as the healer. We do less damage, so it kind of is more our job than others. Although I think it's an affix that everyone should play and you should know when to step in. And lately I've been using a mouse over macro. You can just hover on the nameplate of the explosive or the orb itself, and you can use mouse over macros that way, which is really nice. I actually have a macro for my Shadowlands death where it will default to my target unless I am mousing over. So that's a really nice way to use Shadowlands death for these orbs. You can just hover and cast. And then another thing I've built into this dungeon is a weak aura for every pull, highlighting the nameplate of the mob that's preferred for me to attack. Usually this is going to be the mob with the most health or the biggest threat. And it's really important to be able to see this at a glance because that's where we want our spectrometer and our schism to go. But off the bat, I'm trying to plan out where my PIs are going, and our mage has the most gear, so I'm kind of leaning in his favor. But I do think it goes to the hunter some too. But I have been running workshops for about 2 days straight, trying to learn the ins and outs of the dungeon, so that I can make a video that's a good example for how to do this place as discipline. And we finally did it. So this is a pretty good run overall, and there's a lot of things we can talk about. And there are a couple things where, in hindsight, we all could have done better. Well, not me, the rest of them. They could have done better. But here we go. First boss, not too bad. Select haste. And we have some pretty nasty trash to start. So I am going to focus on the Shrouded mob, giving him my dot, my spectrometer, and my schism, and you just have to get into boon as quickly as you can. A couple of atonements out. And anticipating those explosions, I barrier and wall. Boon is no good to anyone if I'm dead. And trying to land as many hits as possible. Back on explosive duty. So glancing across the group, everyone used their cooldowns, even though this is a Tyrannical boss with Lust. So yeah. So these pistons behind us are really important for the car to hit. It'll break his armor. And I don't think we got a single one except the first. So I use bigwigs, and I have it limited to track vent jets and maximum thrust. That way you can not miss those two attacks. So anyway, problem one. Someone lusted when all cooldowns are down. So objectively, if everyone had saved cooldowns, that would have been better, or at least saved Lust. So here we are, first vent jets. I Shadow Fiend and Schism, PI the Mage, refresh atonements. And here I am, I'm trying to line up for the next piston, and it goes to the Mage, who is slightly off, and it misses. So you can still defeat the boss missing the pistons, but it just takes longer. The break armor lets you hit him stronger. Here are with the next vent jets. And for this one I don't have boon yet, so I have to rapture as a defense, using my grid 2 to monitor where my values are, and always keeping dots refreshed on both enemies. And here I am trying to line up for the next piston, and it goes on the Mage again. And it looks like he luckily lined it up with a piston, but these are single-use pistons, and that one was actually already used, so close but no cigar. And we do have boon available for this Vent Jets, but no mercy is down. So I schism the remaining boss, and I'm in boon. Just a pretty standard Nova Nova blast pattern. And usually coming out of boon, I'll cast Death as my first attack. It is kind of a longer cooldown and you want to get it rolling again. Okay, first boss down. Far from perfect. We only got the first piston. Every other one we missed. But, yeah, and when Lust was popped, when all cooldowns were unavailable, that was also really bad. But overall, it wasn't a wipe. It just could have been a lot quicker. And that is kind of the name of the game in timed dungeons. Speed. So anyway, we're moving on to trash. Scanning my buffs, I have PI. That is it. There's combustion. There's PI. And yeah, so this hallway is actually super messy, so buckle up. We were all in a lot of trouble there. I couldn't see the sleep mechanic standing in the water, so maybe, yeah, don't stand in the water. Alright, with these guys, they have an explode mechanic after they die. They explode about a second after they die, so just keep that in mind. You want to use these columns to LLS. Pain Sup goes to our tank. And this is getting really crazy. Go into a defensive rapture. And the dog puts out a dot. I have a weak aura to highlight the frame orange to show me when it goes out. And right there, laid down a barrier for the tank, and I laid it on him, and he walked out of it. So that's sad to see. And here comes some more explosives, so I'm hiding. And I see the mage, yep, way out there, about to get pwned. And I grip him in, save his life. Alright, so we have a pretty thick mini-boss here, and we have all cooldowns, which we want to get one more round in before the boss. So we're going to dump everything. The dog still puts out his dot, but the dot that goes on the tank is more threatening. So save your dispels for the tank and just heal the dog's dot. And this is my double cooldown. I'm just dumping Shadow Fiend, Schism, and Boon. Getting as many hits as possible. And PI the combustion right on cue. This guy isn't too hard as a mini boss, but he does take a while, which is why it's a good idea to use cooldowns. Lessens the time. And PI got full value there with the mage. But wow, the hunter did better. I think it was because it was chained combat. Alright, boss 1. No cooldowns yet. Pumping as much DPS as we can off the rip. That explosive is like hidden in the box. So you always want to roll a dispel on the tank as quickly as possible. I have a weak aura that I've made that highlights his frame a whitish color, and that's how I monitor it right there. Dispel as quickly as you can. So there is our new box. We definitely want to stand away from it for the leap. And since I was targeted, I preemptively walled just to kind of lessen that sting. Dispel our tank. Refresh my dot last thing before we hide. And priority 1, we have a teammate down, so. And I notice the monk goes in too, so I get back to healing. Keeping dispels on the tank. And cooldowns are almost up. So there's our new box. We want to stand far away from it if you're leaped on. And the hunter with a really pro feign death. Dispel the tank and hide. Alright, PI just came available. Boon is almost available. PI on our mage. And for this one, I atoned everyone that was leaped on. And we're going into a Schism Boon, Nova Nova Blast. And just because the tank dot is out, he was atoned, so I was prioritizing landing the globals with Boon. A really nice defensive penance proc into the tank. And just to polish the boss off, I Shadow Fiend and Schism for the DPS. One good play would be to Rapture for those last rounds of leaps. The boss will target more people later in the fight, so you can use Rapture to kind of get ahead of that damage. And here we have a small little gauntlet. And get ready because next we have our Squirrel Tech. So I have played this dungeon before Shadowlands, but I wasn't a priest, I don't think, so I never got to experiment with mind control. And so far in Shadowlands, mind control is a spell I've almost have never used. So this is what I've been waiting for. It's not too difficult. There are some weak R's that can help you with it. But we want to keep our eyes on the Tinkerers. Squirrels operate on a 15-second cooldown. So I have a weak R to help track that. By default, it is bound to number 2. So we want to mind control the Tinkerer, spam 2, and then exit mind control. So here we go. Tinkerer 1, mind control, cast Squirrel, exit. Tinkerer 2, mind control, cast Squirrel, exit. And now in this interim, I'm just getting dots out and atonements out. And if you look at the DPS meters, I did my job. I'm still trying to learn all the ins and outs of the squirrels, but I think you can only cast 2 per Tinkerer before your mind control starts going immune. So jury's still out on that. I think you can at least get 2. Alright, so here we don't have any cooldowns. Radiance, Atonement Healing, and I Mass Dispel out of combat. You'll notice my bars have a yellow highlight. That is a dispellable. I used a weak card to see that, but it's pretty weak. So just heal through it, Mass Dispel after combat. And this is Boon, Nova Nova Blast, getting the damage, getting the CDR. And this guy, pretty much all his mechanics you'll see better from an upwards angle. It makes the mechanic take up more real estate on your screen, helps you see it. And the only other thing you want to dodge is that frontal. Not too hard if you're keeping an eye out for it. And yeah, for things like that frontal, in Bigwigs, I've eliminated every other warning except that one, so that the warning kind of means more. Before I learn any dungeon, that is one of my methods, is I just go through MDT, I go through Bigwigs, I kind of just read everything. And I start taking notices out of my Bigwigs profile that aren't going to be super relevant to like prepare for or to dodge. So yeah, we have this gauntlet. It's better to be safe than sorry. And Tank got zapped, so he's going back to the front. One cool thing about Atonement is it does not operate on LOS or range. So I was attacking the Shrouded guy and still healing the tank all the way back at the front. Whoa. Okay, we're almost through. And this next pull we have a Tinkerer. So this is another Squirrel pull. So I will say though, this pull for Squirrels is a real toss-up because the Squirrels can target and run over to any mob. So like these Detecto bots, even though we can't damage them, they play no role. The Squirrels can go over there. And I think both my Squirrels in this next pull unfortunately went to a Detecto bot. They completely missed, so. Anyway, Mind Control, press 2, exit. I weave in my PI on the Hunter and paints up the tank just to help me get dots out. And I'm watching my Squirrel cooldown. Mind Control right as it's ending. Spam 2, the default button. Yeah, and if you play that back, you'll notice all my Squirrels ran behind us, down the ramp, and didn't hit anybody. So that was really sad. But it is kind of a random chance with that pack. It can happen. They can run away. So there isn't really any damage here you need to prepare for. So while we have Bloodlust, I'm going to get into Schism and Boon. And we have our preferred rotation, which is Nova Blast, Nova Blast. And you see I got separated, so I worked other globals in between. I had one global of Penance, one global of Solace, and I was just weaving the blasts in between since the Novas weren't going to land. So with this boss, you do kind of want a slightly canted, like upward angle also. I feel like it really helps you see the mechanics, their directions, all that stuff. Also, it's not bad to keep atonements out in this boss fight, mainly because of our talent Lenience. It'll reduce all damage by 3%, and really just helps those things not hurt as bad. PI to our Hunter that time. Whenever I cast Schism, I try my best not to break from it. I want all of my attacks to be offensive to get most use of the Schism. And right here I went into a Rapture, a Radiance to Atone for Mastery, and then Rapture. It's never a bad idea to dump Rapture here because there's unpredictable spike damage. And looking back, I think most of that Rapture didn't go anywhere, but I think it did save the Mage. So, yeah. Okay, that boss is down. Not a problem. Then these guys, you just want to watch out for their front. Have a Penance proc queued. Oh, I thought I was going to Schism. Mouse over macro on that explosive. I think I saved him. What I try and do here is kind of, with party nameplates, I try and keep an eye on where our mage is. So if I ever see one of those frontals targeted, I can quickly life grip. Life grip is not on the global cooldown, so you can work it in really quick and save someone. Alright, and we have our last little run here. We have Tinkerers and we have Squirrels. So in the first pull, there's only one Tinkerer, so it makes it quite a bit easier to manage. Also, I meant to mention, I've programmed a target Tinkerer macro, just so I don't have to worry about finding him. So target Mechagon Tinkerer macro, and I can just keep an eye on the Squirrel cooldown and just hit the macro when I need it. So I think Squirrels will do better if I'm in Discord with the group, because that was a friendly Squirrel, and all of the mobs were outside of the AoE. So yeah, both my Squirrels, I just got 2 of 2. They both land, but they weren't super strong. But we have one more round where I make up for it. So I could have dropped PI there. I do have a lot of uptime building right now. I was more worried about the Squirrels and just completely missed around, but yeah, I think Squirrels are more fun. I don't know. So I precast Shadow Fiend, wait for the damage to go out, then I Radiance, followed by Schism. Lost a couple seconds on the Shadow Fiend, but completely mitigated that damage. So here's our final Tinkerer. Spam button 2, spam exit, and watch the DPS meters. Boom. Love that. So in this 15-second interim, I'm getting atonements out. I'm getting dots out. Here's my second bomb. And really pro to save Fade. Mind Control does kind of act like a taunt, so it's a risky move to Mind Control these Squirrels. So save Fade. And I'm getting into Boon here. Blast, Radiance Blast to cover that AoE. And you could probably tell, even though we lived, going for the Squirrel mechanic is risky because you're not healing, you're standing in place. But here we go. We have the final boss, Tyrannical. And I PI the Hunter. Definitely a better move there would be to PI our Combustion Fire Mage. But I have no cooldowns on the top, so we are just pushing as much natural damage as we can. And you definitely want to be able to see a targeting mechanic here. And you'll see that I've built my grid 2 bars to show a small red border around anyone who's targeted. And with this boss especially, there are a ton of mechanics that it's best if you can get ahead of with a shield. If not for the shield itself, for the lenience talent too. It really helps reduce that sting of all these attacks. And you can see right there, got ahead of it with a shield. And I was selected this time. I am going to go ahead and wall since I have it available. And we're just pushing as much DPS as possible. So I shielded the monk proactively, getting ahead of that attack. Hunter down. I'm running over to try and save him. And looks like the monk gets him just in time. Alright, so final phase, final boss. And the plan is we're banking all of our cooldowns for the Magneto Arm attacks. So it's always a good idea to keep a general eye on where the orbs are, because getting hit by one of those can kill you. Yep, so with this targeted attack also, you want to try and get ahead of it with a shield and the lenience. Always keep your dot rolling on the boss. And Hunter queued his second round. So there's our PI. Schism Boon. And I work in a Blast, Radiance Blast early to be optimally defensive. Nova Blast pattern. Always staying ahead of the Giga Zap with a shield. And in my big wigs, I also have turned off all notifications except for the Magneto arm. That's really the only one I need to monitor. The rest of the fight, I feel like it's just an understood cadence. But I need to know when those Magneto arms are to properly ramp and properly use my cooldowns. It is better to dodge those attacks without a feather if you can, because you always want to have a feather if you need it. So, and just kill this guy off. Toss the paints up for good measure since there's no global. And that is a workshop, all complete. So yeah, I've done this about 10 or 15 times in a row, and I actually think it's really hard. But as a priest, it is so fun to do the squirrel technique. I have heard of it, but I'd never tried it. And so far, all through Shadowlands, there's not an opportunity really to use mind control. So friendly squirrels in this dungeon are just so much fun and so pro. And I definitely think that was probably, you know, a 99 parse. Other people probably had more squirrels land. But I'm over 5k DPS. I'm at the bottom of the avoidable damage and top of the orbs, which is just where you want to be for a Disc Priest. And that was a pretty good run overall. So I do hope to get at least one of these videos out per week, start venturing into the new dungeons. And thanks for watching, everybody, and until next time, Disc out.